Okay, we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello. Yeah. Dr. Sri, good evening. I'm Vicky from an NGO, Exception Swing Model Center. Okay. My question is this. There are several group corridors that we have here currently. Okay, Iskandar and Score. Okay. How have these bodies brought a change to the economy of the country, and what are the future plans of these bodies in the ETP and also the new economic model?
All right.
Definitely.
Hi, my name is Pregnancy from Accenture. I'm sure that a lot of people have the same question. It's a friendly question. When's the next general election?
Well, the first question relates to the corridor development. Of the corridors that we have launched, Iskandar is pretty advanced. The amount of investment that Iskandar has been able to attract has exceeded our target. And there are quite a number of projects that are being implemented now under construction. For example, Logo Land, which is a theme park, that is scheduled to be ready, I think, probably the second half of next year. Pinewood Studio will also be ready somewhere next year. Imagine the famous Pinewood Studio. That's going to be a star attraction in Malaysia. There is going to be a major outlet, a Chelsea outlet, together with the Genting Group. They are on track, and that should be ready probably first quarter of next year. 11/11, you see. I hope they can meet that date, 11/11. Well, end of this year. And that is the, what you call the, what's the word? It's kind of a, it's much cheaper than normal retail, but it's just one season behind. It's outlet shopping, sorry. That's a premier outlet shopping. And it's similar to the one in Bicester in UK, if you're familiar with that. You also went to Oxford, I think you know Bicester very well. And that's going to be quite exciting. And you have a number of other projects, including Marlborough College. It's a public school. It's not as good as Malvern, but it's okay. And you have Southampton University, also Newcastle University. So education will be quite a big feature of Iskandar. And you have got the waterfront project, they're pretty exciting. And even the urban part of Johor Bahru, Sungai Segit will be redeveloped. So they're pretty exciting stuff happening in Iskandar, and as you know, we have settled the POA with Singapore, and there will be a wellness center developed by both Malaysia and Singapore, and there's an announcement today about the agreement, and there will be better connectivity between Singapore and Johor. So I think within a couple of years, I think that whole area of Iskandar will take a very dramatic change. And further north, we have Pengerang, and I just announced last month a $20 billion investment by Petronas that is scheduled to be completed by 2015. That is the single largest investment ever in our history. And that is going to be done just north of Iskandar. It's between the Eastern Corridor and Iskandar. Then you have the Eastern Corridor, the Northern Corridor, and Score and Sabah. Score is also pretty interesting because there is hydro power there. And there are two major aluminium smelter projects in the pipeline, and if that takes off, they will create a huge number of jobs there. So just give it a bit of time, and you will see the results taking place. The northern corridor, eastern corridor will not be sort of in a way of a big impact, but it will be certain growth areas that we have in mind. And we are going to have a lab soon, and during this lab we will go through all the corridor areas so that we will plan in a more integrated fashion, and we will oversee a better implementation of the changes that are likely to take place. The next question is, when is the next general election? When would you like it to be? I know it's a favorite Malaysian pastime. Yes, a lot of guessing time as to when the next general election should take place. But as far as we're concerned, we do have the mandate, and we would like, the advantage of the system is that you can decide what you think is the best time to have an election. Of course, it may turn out to be not the right time, but this is a judgment call, and at the moment, just focus on our transformation plans for the country. That is my best reaction to that, and when the time comes, in due course, not too long, we will have our general election. Of course, not later than 2013, sometime March 2013. So I'm not saying anything, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. I guess maybe because I do not know myself really, well, not yet anyway. So that's my reaction to that question. We don't believe in censorship as a policy. Only lately there was that problem about the people downloading certain things of relating to IP, question of IP. But we will look into it. Generally, we don't censor the internet, and there's a lot of stuff on the internet, and you're free to say what you like. Anonymity is one of the things that advantage in the internet world, and that is, and we're very, very free in Malaysia compared to other countries.
Okay, can we do 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum. Datuk Sri, I'm over here. Okay. Alright, my name is Taufik. I recently met you for the youth forum. I was one of the youth leaders over there, and you met my brother 2 days ago. He was one of the top scorers. Okay, anyway. Okay, straight to my question. I would like to ask you, about the education system in Malaysia. You see, students these days, they are conformed to a certain curriculum, and to my perception, in my point of view, I've lived as more or less like, I'm always going against this, I'm always going against that, questioning here and there. So I noticed that there is no room for, innovation, creativity. There is no such thing that if we follow exactly what's in the books. So that is one thing. And just now, you mentioned about how you're going to get revenue, right? In order for you to subsidize some things, you gotta, increase some things. I think, for me personally, probably people are fed fish instead of being taught how to fish. So that, I think if you solve that problem, you give them, focus on not looking for money, but looking for skills, then comes the money. I think that you would be able to generate a much better country. And one more thing, what recently Kementerian said, cut down all the food because, having weight problems in Malaysia. I think, cutting away wouldn't solve anything for me personally. I think you should, probably implement something like every morning the students would go on for jogging or something in schools. Implement these values for them from start, and then I think that will solve all your problems. Thank you.
Aren't you afraid that this initiative might actually increase unemployment? And in order for companies to keep low cost, what can the government do to make sure that they monitor this so that unemployment will not rise due to this initiative? Thank you.
technologies. What I have here is about the deputy Ketua Pengarah from Kelantan asked me if I could bring this and tell you about it. So what he wants to do is for me to make this look better, since I'm a manufacturer of accessories. So I said can approve funds, these plus the other things I'm doing. However, the problem is the ministries are okay, but the banks, the agencies that are handling the funds, they are very slow.
Very hard. I discovered our postmen salaries are below poverty line. So we decided to increase salaries for postmen. Then I discovered that security workers, what do you call that? Security guard, are paid below poverty line. Their wages have been increased. And lately, I managed to persuade Sime Darby to give 200 ringgit more for the plantation workers, because plantation workers have been paid far too low for too long. And I'm glad to inform you that other plantation families are following suit now. Now when we have our minimum wage council, there will be tripartite, grouping. The employees, employers, and government will sit down together, and we will determine a rate that is fair to the workers and fair to the employees as well. So I don't think we need to worry about not being competitive. And if you look at the other inputs, as I mentioned earlier, I want Malaysia to be more competitive, not on the basis of low wages, but on the basis of being competitive, being innovative, and be more productive. And that applies to our young professionals as well. Because some of them work long hours by not getting a fair deal from some of the young lawyers that work long hours, but they're not getting as much as they should. So I think we need to send a message that we don't want to lose young, talented Malaysians overseas. Because if you are underpaid, what do? You think about having a job in Dubai. But obviously, going down to Singapore is a lot easier than going to Dubai or going to London. But good people, they want to apply to the Goldman Sachs of the world, the McKinsey's of the world. Because you can, as a 23, 24-year-old, you can command a 5-figure salary by listening. So it goes to show that we are quite far behind in terms of where we relate to other countries. So that's my belief. I believe Malaysians should be paid more, but at the same time, I believe Malaysians should work harder and be more competitive and be more competitive. The first question about curriculum, yes, I believe curriculum should be more exciting, more innovative. I believe that our education system depends too much on rote learning. I think we have to inject more creativity and innovation into our education system, as opposed to the suggestion that cutting down on food is not a good suggestion that Malaysians should engage in jogging. There's some practicalities. If you jog, you'll be all sweaty. And I know the schools don't have showers. So you go back to the classroom, all sweaty, that's not a good idea. But you need a healthy lifestyle. You can eat reasonable amount of food, but you need to exercise as well. So if you lead a healthy lifestyle, then you'll be okay. So I believe in eating a fair amount, but you can eat well with quality food, but at the same time you must exercise.
Okay.
Salam satu Malaysia. Nama saya adalah JC Bryany. I'm the president of Junior Chamber International Kuala Lumpur, NGO partner in United Nations. During the speech, Dr. Siri, that you mentioned about the double the income from USD 7,500, but would the government take any action to support low-income class and fresh graduates and young entrepreneurs, and how? That's the question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Prime Minister. I'm Amir from KRA Group. I'd like to ask you a question. Firstly, it's related to when you asked the hall just now about cutting revenues, about getting new revenues as an answer to lowering the car tax. Why can't we look at cost-effective measures for the government? One area that we could probably look at is renegotiation of the IPP contracts. And I would like to congratulate the government, your administration, for the ability to start renegotiating the IPP with the first generation power producers. But then, why should we, the Rakyat, tolerate such policies when it is clearly robbing the government in broad daylight? And second question is, Mr. Prime Minister, just to bring to your attention, in the UK, the coalition government of Prime Minister David Cameron, 7 members of the cabinet are below the age of 50. And even Prime Minister Cameron himself and Chancellor Osborne is below the age of 50. Will you make a promise to this hall, given that you've placed so much trust in us, the young Malaysian? Will you make a promise to this hall that should you win the next election, you will include at least 5 ministers below the age of 50 and feel that at least 45% candidates below the age of 40? I think it's a reasonable thing to ask from our generation. Thanks.
Okay, very quickly to another state and everyone here. My question is Malaysia moving towards the high economic nation. If we are actually developing and progressing and moving towards the development, why are things so much harder now compared to 30 years ago? If we are actually developing, things should be like much smoother now compared to last time, right? Why is it so much harder to own a house now compared to 30 years ago? And why is the increase of the goods and services is not equivalent to the increase of our salaries? For instance, in the UK, if you earn £2,000, you pay £2 for a McDonald's, and you can get a bottle of shampoo for £1, and you can go to M&S and get a decent shirt for £10. With the same 2,000 ringgit, you know how much you're going to pay for the same things. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Suki. My question is this. Yes. I was at the GLC Open Day over the past weekend, and there was a lot of emphasis on growing regional champions and even a global champion. And with that in mind, we all know how important English as the international language of commerce is. What are you doing to improve the standards of English in Malaysia? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, taking the last question first, English. I am a believer that English is a very important language for us to be proficient. In fact, I'd like to see Malaysians to be very fluent and proficient in English beyond just what you call English as second language. Because if you want to speak English well, it's a language that's idiomatic kind of English, a language. So if you do not understand the nuances of the language, then you may not be able to be quite proficient in the language. And you can't really master the language. And that's why I'm a great advocate that we should teach English literature in our schools. You can start with a shortened version, condensed version of Shakespeare or in other works of literature like Dickens and so forth, a abridged version, so that you can teach easier for the teachers to teach English literature. I believe without teaching English literature, you cannot really be in terms of your ability to speak the English language. So, and I believe that we should move towards that. And secondly, what we are doing is we have increased the contact hours in English now. That's one. There are more contact hours in English. And thirdly, we're trying to bring in teachers to teach English in which English is their mother tongue. And that means coming from places like United States, UK. In fact, when I met President Obama last year in New York, I suggested that the whole concept of the Peace Corps should be revived, but in a modern sense. So we are putting together a program in which we can bring some American teachers under the Fulbright program. Under Macy, not Fulbright, under Macy, will manage it, and they will bring the teachers here. So that's going to happen very soon. And I hope that we will have more and more of those teachers to be sent to our schools, so that people will be able to be taught by people whose mother tongue is English. That's one. Inflation is, well, in terms of the cost of living in Malaysia, you must also take into account the tax rate in the UK. Okay, the tax rate in the UK is pretty stiff, and you cannot just compare, say, £2,000 and what people earn here. Because if you earn, say, £2,000, you must ask yourself what's the net after tax. Okay, so there are what you call tax for services and goods. In fact, VAT is much higher now than what 23% of VAT.